3 of the order seems to suggest that the only provisions of the Indian Constitution which would apply to the state of Jammu and Kashmir are those which are specified in the second schedule, and that too with the modifications which were made.
Absolutely. That's our submission, madam. And
Now the entire constitution.
no, because 356 was not applicable at this.
No, but there would be a clause in this saying 356.
It's part 5. And I'll show that to your lordship.
But is it your contention, therefore, that
Entirety of 16 applies.
16.1 didn't apply to the Jammu and Kashmir?
It did apply. It applied.
The part which is mentioned.
But how did it apply then?
No, part.
To the state of Jammu and Kashmir. Full stop.
Which?
Second-
The word
second-
also left the word out, which.
Yes, I'm aware of that. That second part says.
So you can't pass a law.
So what is the effect of clause 2 and 3 of article 246 not applying in relation to the state?
Because the residuary power is with the state.
No, but 246(2) says, refers to the power of parliament and the state to enact laws on the concurrent list.
That's fine.
No, but if 2 is not applicable, then neither the state nor the parliament can enact a law on the concurrent list. then.
It's because of 1B, Manas. It only tells you the methodology, Manas, that's all. The point is, what my lord is putting to me is, the president can exercise powers under 370, dehors a modification. That's an exercise of plenary power. That's what my lord is putting to me. But Manas, this clearly shows that even that exercise has to be done with concurrence. If it relates to the concurrent list and consultation if it relates to instrument of accession, can't be done any other way. So it's not a matter of practice alone. It's the substantive interpretation of 370. Kindly see the first column, Malas. All the articles apply. Part 9, Part 11, Part 12, Part 15, Part 16, Part 17, Part 19, Part 20, everything applies. But in those parts, there are exceptions and there are modifications. That's set out in the third column. Nobody disputes that. The whole part applies.
Clause 3 of the order seems to suggest that the only provisions of the Indian Constitution which would apply to the state of Jammu and Kashmir are those which are specified in the second schedule, and that too with the modifications which were made.
Absolutely. That's our submission. And then this is superseded by the 1954 order. For example, Part 3 at this stage was not to apply. It's not in the second schedule.
Let's go to this now the
54 order.
54 order.
Yeah. So, Manas, supposing the entire constitution was to be made applicable, Manas, it would require concurrence, no? Only some are applicable, some are not yet applicable. You will see that 356 comes later. 356 doesn't come at this stage. That would also require concurrence, and concurrence was taken. So any provision of the Constitution of India which relates to the concurrent list would be made applicable subject to the concurrence of the state government. Consultation and concurrence, instrument of accession and concurrent list. And Article 1 and 3 are out of it. So kindly see, Malas.
Unlike
other than 1 and
1950.
3, other than 1 and 3.
1 and 3 is already there.
That's right.
Unlike 1950 order, which had specific articles were made applicable, now the entire constitution.
No, because 356 was not applicable at this.
No, but there would be a clause in this saying 356.
It's part by part, not true, Manas. Part by, see part 1, part 2, part 3. It's part by part. It's not all.
Is 356 specifically excluded
No, at this
in
stage.
at this stage?
Yes. Excluded.
It would be excluded
After
at this.
part 5, you have part 9.
Yes, come to page 15, 356 is excluded.
Yes.
So
that
the
is-
entire constitution was made applicable by the 1954 order,
Mullah, they said-
except to the extent of exclusion.
Mullah, this part 5 is state 11 straight away. There's no question of the entire constitution being included.
Just 1 minute. Just read.
Mr. Sibal, my learned brother may be, if with respect, right. I'll tell you another reason. I'll give you another, just apropos what fell from Brother Sanjeev Khanna. Just see now part 3. First, we'll just see one small provision, clause 2 of the order of 1954.
Correct.
Yes,
It says the provisions of the constitution which
yes.
in addition to Article 1 and Article 370 shall apply in relation to the state of Jammu and Kashmir, and the exceptions and modifications shall be as follows. Now, one thing is very interesting. The word only which we found in the 1950 order has been deleted in the 1954
Right,
order.
Right,
So only goes.
yes.
Now, let's go to part 3 for a moment and just to test the hypothesis.
We'll just go to parts. Yes.
Now, just see clause C in
Yes,
part
clause-
3.
Clause, yes, I
Right?
got it, Mullah.
It says in clause 3 of Article 16, the reference to the state shall be construed as not including a reference to the state of Jammu and Kashmir.
Correct,
Now, if we see Article 16(3) of the Constitution,
yes.
it says nothing in this article shall prevent Parliament from making any law prescribing in regard to a class or classes of employment or appointment to an office under the government or any local authority within a state or any requirement as to residence within that state or union territory prior to such employment or appointment.
Right.
Now, if the entirety of clause 16 were not to apply to Jammu and Kashmir,
Yes.
what was the reason for saying that only clause 16(3) will apply subject to these modifications?
For the simple reason that Mullah's other clauses in respect of clause 3 of the constitution came into the J&K constitution later. And I'll show that to your lordship.
But is it your contention therefore that
Entirety of 16
that
applies.
16(1) didn't apply to the Jammu and Kashmir?
It did apply it, it applied.
The part which is mentioned.
But how did it apply then?
No, part 3 applies in full. When it says part, your lordship may see they have a serial number and then they have A, B, C below each of these parts. So when they mention the part applies in full. Now, in that part, A, B, C will tell you the exception or modification of the provisions of the constitution in that part. So when the part is indicated, the part applies in full. In the 1950 order, it was column. So in the second
That's what I was
schedule-
saying. See, in the earlier, the manner of printing of the two notifications
Yes,
is slightly
Yes, that's
different.
all, that's
That's
all.
very good.
In the first one,
Has been
there is a
expressly
column,
excluded.
Yeah.
it is an article,
Yes,
then what is the exception sort of
correct,
carved
correct.
out?
And the modifications, now it's.
Modification exception carved out.
So now
In
it's.
this, the way it is printed as I see it,
Yes.
when they say part 3, it means part 3 applies, but.
But these exceptions and modifications.
Column of modifications which were there
Yes,
are specified underneath it.
that's
Exactly.
exactly what,
That's
it is. Nothing, no difference.
Other than what has been exclusively excluded.
Yeah.
The rest of the part 3 applies.
That's correct, that's all that there is. That's all.
Mr. Sibal,
Like
I
16,
think,
1 and 2 apply.
Mr. Sibal, just come to page number, internal page number, the first page, page 10 of the
Page
notification.
10, okay,
The provisions of the constitution.
yes.
This means the entire provisions of the constitution.
Page 10, your lordship's PDF page 10?
Yes,
Yes,
that's the notification, 14th May 1954, 2, clause 2. The
page
provisions.
13, not 10.
13 of the.
Or page 30,
Yes,
yes,
30,
yes, page
yeah.
30, you're right. The provisions of the constitution,
Yes,
which in addition to Article 1 and 317, Article 317,
Yes.
because that's covered by
yes,
3.
yes,
Now, the provisions of the constitution refers to the entire provisions of the constitution.
correct, correct. Yes,
Shall apply in relation to the state of Jammu and Kashmir, full stop.
yes. Which,
Second-
the lordship
second-
had left the word out, which.
Yes, I'm aware of that. That second part says, the exceptions and modifications subject to which they shall also apply shall be as
Correct,
follows.
correct,
So thereafter, the exceptions are carved out
yes,
with regard to each part of the provision of the constitution, which are either not to be applicable or applicable with modification.
correct, correct,
And if you go down, it specifically says 356 is excluded.
yes,
In case this was specific inclusion, they need not have specified 356 is excluded. Because by implication, 356, if not mentioned in the schedule would have been excluded.
With the greatest respect, when you say kindly read it, just see. Kindly see part 18.
The very fact that some articles have been
Kindly see
excluded,
page 18. Kindly see page 18. PDF page 18.
yes,